Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we are going to be talking about apps and how convenient, right, for you iPhone users. I don't know what you Android users use, but we got apps on iPhones. And so I have a very special guest today. We are going to talk about his app and how apps are necessary to business. You won't want to miss what this gentleman is laying down. Stay with us. Here we go. It's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today I have Mr. Dan Hafner. This man is absolutely incredible. He's an inspiration, very motivational, and he inspired me today. He's hailing all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he's doing something unique with his company and in app development space. And that's not something we've gotten to talk about, but I think it's becoming more and more prevalent that businesses need to incorporate mobile apps into their business structure some way, somehow. And his company is helping us do just that. But we're going to talk about it today and why we should consider this in our business model and our business plan. So I can't hold this gentleman back any further. This man is absolutely exciting, passionate, and a business owner. So we got to give him a big shout out. Bring a round of applause, y'all. Help me welcome to the stage, Mr. Dan Hafner.
Hey, Marcus.
How's it going, sir? Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you. This is significant. This is important, sir. This is not easy, right? I remember when the first app, I think Facebook started. I don't know. Maybe it was different. But that Farmville app that everybody had on their phone, that was like the blockbuster. And then we started migrating to Androids and who has what and iPhone this. Well, sir, before we dive into that, I want to understand your story. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Have you always been self-motivated, encouraging? Where did it all start for you? When did it all kick off?
No, I have not actually. I remember being in even high school, like as even a younger kid, saying to myself, I literally remember saying out loud, like, I'm never going to have a job where I work behind a computer or in front of a computer, right? Oh, how wrong I was, how naive I was, right? Because I was always big into sports. I played football, basketball, baseball. I played in college. Like I loved to do things. I was always out there doing stuff. So I was kind of in that millennial space where early 90s, we didn't really grow up with the computer, but it became more prevalent as I was getting older and stuff. Mm-hmm. So no, I was not. I had a couple of random jobs outside of college and then got into like the help desk and customer service type of space. And, eventually landed a job inside of a quality assurance testing department with a big firm called Deloitte. So I worked with them for a little while, and that kind of sparked my world into this, world of software and apps. And we worked actually under contracts for the military, which was really cool. In combination with that, I had met my now wife in college. I was a year in front of her. And she's in the medical field. So we were actually moving every so often. We started long distance for a while, and then we moved to where she was going to medical school. And then there was residency, and then there was fellowship. And now we've moved like 4 times. So it got very hard to hold down my own job for a little while, and then I was it just kind of dawned on me one day, like, hey, why don't I just take this world of software that I've learned a little bit about and kind of venture into that and see if I could make that something. So that's kind of how I got into this whole entrepreneurial world. And then it just so happened at the time I got bit by the, Russell Brunson bug somehow, some way. The .com secrets book found its way onto my Twitter feed or my email, or somehow, I don't even remember how it happened. And then once I had that, it was like, oh, okay, there's a lot of different ways I can do things. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all those types of things. I think a lot of people get their start on, So that's kind of how, it all came to be, honestly, just kind of moving around, different ideas, and then working for people and realizing I didn't like doing that anymore. So
That's such a fact. That's so huge, and I often come to this realization that all my experiences, I've done insurance, I've done sales, person to person and business to business. I've done banking, finance, financial services, product sales, worked for the federal government, military. And I often ask my question, what are all these experiences have in common? And how have they shaped me into the entrepreneur I am today? So how has your 9 to 5 experiences and your job experiences helped you become the man you are today?
yeah, it's a good question because in addition to those software jobs that I had where I just kind of learned everything on the fly, never went to school for it. I actually majored in political science of all things in college. And in once we had moved on from that, where my wife got a job in her residency in West Virginia, I ended up actually landing a couple of sales jobs there. So I worked for a company in the logistics space of all places, and it was called TQL, which is very interesting. So I really was introduced to the world of cold calling, hard
Ouch.
selling, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was ouch. But I learned so much. You know what I mean? Like I really, I was thankful for that because it really taught me the principles again. Well, not taught me, but like it reminded me of kind of how hard it is to start in these types of things, how to differentiate yourself, how to message, how to talk with people, how to cut through the noise, and just be more personable. Because I mean, it's a tip. I get to make fun of developers, I say, because I worked with them for a long time. As someone who's in this software world, you tend to be very introverted. I can be very introverted. So it was a good practice to be like, hey, get out there and talk to people because people are the real um, thing you're solving for in a product that you're creating, right? Uh,
Right.
so that really helped shape me. And then I also worked for a social media ads company for a little while, doing sales and also building the funnels and click funnels. And we did a couple webinars and did things like that too. So that way, when I started what I was doing, I kind of realized, okay, I have this technical capability that I'm not into the coding. I'm not like super. All I want to do is build stuff. But then I also had this other piece of, well, I can talk to people, I can relate with people, I can sell, and I can actually do it in a way that something I'm passionate about, not just like selling loads of trucks, Uh, and
Right.
and that kind of helped me combine to that. You know what I mean? So then I was able to say, okay, I have this over here and I have this over here. Let's combine them, and do my own thing. So I think that's kind of how that helped all roll up into what I'm doing. Yeah.
But very true. Who has been your biggest advocate, or let me flip it. Let me flip it. Who has not supported you that you wish had supported you in your entrepreneurial journey in this app development space? Have you had a lot of naysayers, a lot of negativity, a lot of people giving you pushback, like, "Oh, that's crazy. App? What's an app? We don't need that." Have you had anything like that?
I mean, probably like a lot of people from my own family for the first while. It was definitely like, yeah, what are you doing with this? Is this gonna work? Is this I mean, even to this day, my wife is she still will have times of like, hey, are you is this ever gonna like really really take off? You're gonna be like the next big thing, And I'm like, well, hey, they could. We're not big, but I've grown and we've expanded and done some things like that. So that's really been the biggest naysayers, I guess, would have been the people inside of my own family, not only on my side but on her side as well. Um, and that was very hard to deal with. That was really hard to deal with for a while. And that took a lot of mental toughness. That took a lot of like faith in myself and being like, okay, like I get that everyone's kind of yelling at me and everyone's like really doubting and scared, but they don't see the vision that I see and they don't have the passion that I have for this type of stuff. So that was probably my biggest one. And that's tough. That's a very tough thing to get through. But that where, for someone out there, like in the audience, like if you do have pushback from your family or friends or people telling you like, hey man, like you sure this is going to work out? Or, hey, you've been at this for a while. Are you making the big bucks yet? I don't see you driving the Maseratis or anything, you got to have faith in yourself. You got to believe in yourself, because that's really, at the end of the day, it's all it comes down to.
There you have it.
I like that.
It's a Gentleman Style Podcast mascot. Love that guy. He's awesome. So are you faith? Are you a religious man? Is that what got you through those tough times? Is it, something? Is it the Robert Kiyosaki books? Is it a big bag of weed? Like, is it what got you through those tough moments? Because like you said, those are hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are hard moments in business. And I think we don't give enough credit to those moments. And I'm not trying to harp on the negativity, but it's significant. A lot of people, I look at it like podcasting. There's a lot of people that join podcasting. They want to be a podcaster. They want to be an influencer, right? And they're on the TikToks and they're dancing and they're doing all this crazy stuff because they think they're going to be this overnight success. But business is not easy, right? So what gets you through? Is it the faith or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic. After I moved away and went to college and then kind of, went out on my own and then moved back in with my, my girlfriend and now wife and stuff. Like I never really stuck with church. And I kind of fell out of that for a little while. But as over the past like 4 or 5 years, my faith has definitely like reasserted itself, and I've grown and I've started to be a lot more curious and finally read the Bible. I love to listen to the Bible. By the way, if you like Audible, get James Earl Jones reads the New Testament. It's like the greatest thing ever. Just with that sultry voice he has. Okay, shout out to that one. I think that's a big piece. And then, I mean, it's faith in that. And it's also, and again, it's just faith in yourself. I never thought I was like a very hard-headed, stubborn person, but it turns out I kind of am when it comes to this stuff. Cause I just remember, like, even as a kid, like when I would make up my mind with stuff, like that was it. Like I was like, no, like I'm not compromising on this. I'm going to make this happen. And I think that's probably carried over in this. Like I remember just in the beginning making a promise to myself, was like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And it's terrifying. Like it's like, that's like the scariest commitment to make, that it's like, I know that I'm going to have some really rough shit and I'm going to go through some terrible things, but I'm going to have faith in God and I'm going to have faith in myself, and yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that. I want to segue here, and thank you for that book recommendation. James Earl, you said the New Testament?
Yeah, I think it's on Audible. Yeah.
Audible. I love Audible because that's how I'm always in the car. I'm always on the move. So Audible is my best friend.
Yeah.
So Heart of Gold, y'all. One more round of applause for Mr. Hafner and motivation and pushing through. When the times get hard, he get harder. I want to talk about your Dapper mobile apps website. And so how did you come up with the name Dapper? Are you just a swag? Are you a G? Are you a player back in the day before the wife? Like, how did you come up with the name Dapper? And what's that mean to you?
Yeah, I wish there was a better story, honestly. When I was at my logistics sales job, I was, there's a lot of strange people that go through that job, because it's just kind of like they're selling the dream. It's like Wolf of Wall Street type of thing. It's like, hey, come in and let's just make tons of money, So one of the guys I was sitting by and working with, he called me Dapper Dan every day. I don't really know why. And then that was kind of the idea. He helped me with I actually just changed the logo, but the original logo was like the tuxedo t-shirt, with like the little, a little bit like your background on here, but it was like the tuxedo t-shirt piece, So that was really all it was. I mean, I've always tried to think about like ways to kind of look more, dress more fly and do those types of things. What my wife will say also, I do not live up to the Dapper Dan name a lot of times in the way that I dress. But I'm trying, man. I'm trying, You
look good, man. You're a sharp dude. I appreciate you, man. I was just curious. It stood out to me about the Dapper website.
That's all it was, really. Yeah.
I I remember when apps were coming really prevalent and a lot of people were coming into it. What industries really can benefit? What businesses can really benefit? And this is your wheelhouse. I want to talk to your expertise. What businesses can really benefit from having an app on someone's phone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot, but there's people talk about business to business or business to customer or business to consumer, right?
Sure.
A lot of times when people think about apps, like you're talking about the business to consumer. You think about like an Eventbrite or Facebook, right? There's the end user is the consumer. But like e-commerce types of businesses can benefit from that. Events-based businesses, even like there's even ones that we've seen that work really, really well is if for people that have content or have regular content,
Mhm.
even like memberships, those types of things can really be beneficial. Um, there's a lot, but then also then you flip it and you go into the B2B space. That's really where more of the SaaS world comes in, the software as a service, where it's like, okay, we're not actually making this app for a specific user, but more for a business type of use case or for multiple people to be able to use, right? So those work, you can use law firms, you can use dentist office, doctors' offices, even just startups and entrepreneurs. That's been one of the big ones that we've worked with is like either solo founders or small teams of like up to 10 people that are kind of getting their start. Maybe they got a first round of funding. Maybe they're just kind of trying to get this thing off the rails and off the launch pad,
Yeah.
and this can really, really help for moving. You got to move fast in today's world. You know what I mean? Like speed is just about everything. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a vague answer, I know, but like the short answer is pretty much any business. Obviously, like if you can think of like, hey, I have an idea for software of any kind of any system that I repeatedly do that I can automate. You could probably build some kind of. It doesn't even have to be an app. It can be an automation for that. It can be something that where you can use some no code software to put together like a Zapier type of thing or whatever. But maybe you have something where you want to take an outdated system and move it into something that's more prevalent. Like you were just showing the website that we have there. One I love to talk about is the animal chiropractor app that we did, where she literally had like a fax based process where they would fax in things to get approval to do manipulations on animals, and they did whatever. And it was literally just took from A to Z, took that entire process and just was like, okay, let's not do faxing anymore. Let's just put it on an app and let's just make it all there. So it was very simple and very, straightforward to do. So that's a very good one as well for
So
updating outdated processes. Yeah.
so break that down. So the app allowed the chiropractor to have the clients upload documentations that she needed for approval quicker. Is that what you were? Was it what it benefited her? I'm trying to get to the sauce of how it benefited her.
Yeah. So it basically there was three kind of consumers on this one application, right? You have the animal chiropractor, you have the clients who have those pets, and then you have their veterinarian. Basically, the vets have to approve to say, hey, yes, this animal is healthy enough to get manipulation, to get injections, to get whatever done to them, right? So in order to talk back and forth, the veterinarian and the chiropractor would have to go back and forth. They'd have to sign this document, send it back, but then the client might get involved and be like, well, hey, veterinarian, did you get this? Did you sign this? It would go back and forth and it would all get lost in translation, right? So really what this did was help the veterinarians streamline this process so they don't have to just lose it in a fax machine, print it out, fill it all out by hand, re-upload it, do all this other stuff. It just sends to them in their software. They click through, click sign, send it away. It's all taken care of. It's all done. It's all legalized. They had new regulations that came out in the state of Texas that said, hey, these have to be done in a legal way. So that's where it was like, okay, check this box. Yes, boom, done. So it saved the veterinarians tons of time and tons of headaches.
So the veterinarian is the business. The app belongs to the veterinarian, and they're the ones that's pushing it, or the physician.
It was actually for the chiropractor
The
themselves.
chiropractor. Okay, so the
Yeah, but then
chiropractor.
they onboarded all the vets that they work with and all the clients that they work with. Yeah.
Huge, changing the absolute game. You see how powerful. what is the difference between an app and a like a mobile app and a app on a website, a mobile website? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so when people talk about like native applications, right? Like that's one that you would actually go on. You talk about Android versus iOS, like they have app stores,
I got
right?
beef. That's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. I always get crap for being an iOS guy because I'm a big Apple guy. And when I develop stuff, because apparently when I worked with, it was like, oh my God, you have an iPhone? Like, what's wrong with you, man? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's what I've always had. Um, but yeah, so I mean, so your mobile app, those are going to be downloaded from the app stores, from the Apple App Store, from Google Play. You actually download that. It's like an application. That's what app is short for, right? That runs on your phone. Um, the difference between that and one that runs like on a browser is that obviously you would access that application through like something like a Google or Safari or Firefox or whatever. And there's pros and cons to each of them. Because if you want to go through and you actually want to like have a mobile app that's on the App Store, that's on Google Play, you got to jump through some hoops. You got to know kind of what you're doing. That's where like the bulk of what I do comes in with people. They realize like, holy crap, I never would have been able to do this if you didn't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm,
Because you have to go through approval processes and then they'll reject it and they'll say, hey, this is wrong and you didn't do this right and you got to fix this and you got to do that. So there's a big gatekeeper aspect in there. Whereas if you want to just publish something to the internet, it's just like publishing a website. You put, there's a lot of drag and drop types of things out there on websites. You can put something together, buy a domain for $10, slap it on there and publish it, and it's live in a day,
Right.
So there's no real gatekeeper into that. There's no
Barrier to
delay.
entry.
Yeah, barrier to entry. Exactly. So, but then it's also, you got to market it. You got to make sure it's optimized. You got to do all that type of stuff. Whereas when you enter, that's, I think, one of the biggest things that people don't realize is that the App Store and Google Play is such a undertapped or underappreciated market. I mean, there's almost 500 million people visiting those app stores every single day, Marcus. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like that's game changing. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
like, it's like $100 to list your app up there, $25,
On the App Store. So
Yeah.
is it so I don't have to do the SEO and the marketing if I put it on the App Store because there's people scouring and constantly looking for apps to check out and download? Is that what you're saying? Versus a website where I got to optimize it, like you said.
There is ways you have to optimize on the App Store. Yes, it's called
Okay.
ASO instead of SEO. But it's a lot. I mean, to me, it's easier. I've never really gone down the SEO route, and there's all like backlinks, and it's always been kind of confusing for me on how that works. ASO, App Store optimization, is a lot more straightforward. You can pick your keywords, you have a title, you have images, and you can A/B test stuff now. So it's a lot more straightforward. And it's, I mean, so for example, you talked about the app that we built, back in the day, the running app where I lost weight and, did that stuff. Once I got that optimized, which took me a few months, I mean, we were getting anywhere between 100 to 200 downloads a day, and I was literally doing zero work.
You weren't promoting it. You weren't doing
No.
no TikTok dancing. You weren't nothing.
No,
Wow.
I wasn't doing anything. I was working on other things. It was over here just doing its thing, getting me like 100, 200 leads a day. Like it was wild.
That's a huge benefit. That's a huge perk.
Yeah.
That almost sells itself because you got to spend the money. I get commonly frustrated when I see business owners. They try and leverage referrals, right? Because they don't want to spend any money in marketing and advertising. But I feel like as a business owner, that's kind of a line item. Like you have to budget for marketing, so that'll significantly help that marketing aspect to have an app that once you spend the time and the energy and partner with you and your company and you help me figure that out, it's go time. It's one and done. What's I remember back in the day, apps, is there a lot of coding involved? Is there a coder on your team that'll help me with issues if the app goes down or it's fall off the Apple iStore? What's the follow-up, or is it you just help me set it up and then I take it from there? What's that process look like?
No, that's a good question. So that is one of the more interesting things, I think, at least about what I started doing. So when I first got into this game, I was kind of doing the sales stuff. I was doing the customer support things, QA stuff, whatever. I wanted to launch this app idea that I had for a long time, and I didn't know how to code. So I went to start to learn how to do it. And God bless you if you can do it. I could not figure it out. It was about 2 weeks, and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to learn this stuff at this point in my life. Like, I don't, it's like, on top of being full-time employed, all this other stuff. It's like, no.
Got a migraine.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll hire somebody to do this. Right. So I went and I found different agencies. I found all kinds of different people, Upwork, whatever. And I was getting quotes between like $100,000 and like $250,000, $250,000. Yeah. To do this thing. And I was like, okay, that's not fun. So one thing leads to another. And I find this wide, awesome world of what's called no code. Right. So that is what I turned Dapper Mobile Apps into, was a no code development agency or, service where you can actually build and launch apps without having to use code. So that's what we do as far as getting people's software or applications built. So you ask like, hey, I need changes. I don't know how to code. I don't know what to do with this. The beauty of it is that it's all built on these programs. And there's a lot of platforms out there like Flutterflow, Bubble, Dalo, like all these different platforms where someone like you, Marcus, could actually go in, and if you wanted to, you don't have to, but you could figure out like, well, I don't like the color of this button. Okay. You go in there and you click and you change it from yellow to blue, right? Like it's simple. It's like building like a GoDaddy site, right?
Yeah.
So, but we also offer, things that are like, I don't want to even have to do that. Okay, great. No problem. But then the other piece that I started to find was, and this was kind of where it went after I had built several things. We were kind of in business for a year or two. We're building all these cool apps for people, and then they weren't getting the results like I was getting, like getting 100, 200 downloads day, leads day, whatever. And I was like, why is that? And I realized it was because not a lot of people know how to, like, if you have an idea, if you want to launch something, you might not have an idea of really how to truly market it. And then 2, you don't really have the back end systems to really be able to handle what would you do if you got 100 free leads a day or 200 leads a day on like without having to do anything? Like, what would you even do with them? Do you have a back end system in place to even follow up with them, to sell them anything, to sell a ticket or like anything like that? A CRM, right? So that's also what we've built, is that it's basically like having your front end application. Think of it as like an ebook or a lead magnet. You can even do it like that. And then it's tied into your back end CRM. So somebody downloads it over here, boom, they're put into automations over here, right? And then you can do with it whatever you want with them over here, right? So then we're adding in pieces where you can do, ads and webinars and sell things like that too right now. So it's more than just, hey, we'll build it for you and then off you go and best of luck. Like, you can do that if you want. If you have the experience and the ability to do that, more than happy to help you, right? But if not, then that's where we like to partner with people and like, okay, like let's actually get you some results. Let's sell this thing, so you don't just sink money into it.
Love it. Huge. That helps a lot. So it's not just a one and done. It's we're with you. We're gonna build this thing out and we're gonna make it work for what you needed to do. Huge. A heart of gold, y'all. Mr. Dan Hafner. Speaking of apps and paying bills, we gotta pay some bills, y'all. We gotta go to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm Marcus Norman, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. Whether you're into passive income opportunities, trending topics and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, there's something for everyone. You can expect all that and more every week. If you're down with this content, then consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Gentleman Style Podcast and smash the bell to get on our VIP list. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching. Link to my channel.
Baby Gear Services DMV specializes in high-quality baby gear rentals in the Maryland and DC metro area. We have a wide range of baby gear items for rent, including wooden cribs, car seats, high chairs, and more. We also offer seasonal specials and free delivery. Our prices are very versatile to cover every budget. Wooden cribs start at $17 a day. High chairs and even car seats start at $5 a day. Check out our website, www.bgsdmv.com.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have the incredible Mr. Dan Hafner spilling the tea on why you, me, all of us, most of us, I say all of us, need to include an app in our business. And Mr. Dan, I want to ask this question: how can I give me an example where I can use an application to actually grow my business and grow my either influence? Right? Maybe I want to grow as an influencer, so I want to expand and touch newer markets and different people, or grow my revenue and profits. Can you give me an example of that, how I can use an app to grow my business?
Yeah, I would have probably given you a different answer about this like a year ago. But now, since we've had the awesome and wonderful Chat GPT that has graced the world, this is probably my new answer. Is how can you, right? Like, you think about
what was your old answer? Let's start there. What was the old answer, and then tell us the new answer. Can you do that?
Yeah, the old answer I would say was, again, kind of what I talked about before, using as lead gen, right? Like, using it as a lead generation piece to then put people into a CRM somehow. But you're using it as this front end value add of, like, say, hey, Marcus, you coach people on how to do podcasts, right?
Which I do.
Okay, well, there you go. So you can put together a very simple app that has, resources, samples, downloads, your show, your private show, all kinds of different things, just as an example off the top of my head. Now, when people download that, you can, boom, take them into your CRM. You can then sell them those services. So it's almost like a free value add out front that you could say, hey, download the app, do this type of thing. And, a lot of people like these, even think about school. Like, school is really blowing up right now. A lot of people have their communities inside of there, and it's a great tool. It's almost like you could almost do your own private school. Like, you could just, rebrand that to be like, hey, this is our school, our community where things are going. That's always one of the things like that. And then where I kind of flip this and say the new answer is, you think about what is your business valued at? Like, if you were to post your business for sale today on, a brokerage website that sells businesses or whatever, something like Flippa or something, what would your business be worth, right? They're going to look at your recurring revenue, your customer base, your expenses, the whole 9 yards. Like, I don't really know how they value businesses, but it's very simple, right? Well, software or systems you have in place can be then put inside of the asset column. Hey, I have this cool tool that's actually provides tons of value and could be sold at its own separate thing, or it can add to that asset column of your business, right? So what I actually have been encouraging people to do is think, what type of software tool could you create inside of your specific business that would add to that asset column that you could either sell separately or bundle inside of your business that would up the value of your business or your LLC or whatever it is, right? So maybe you just make a simple, not simple, but like maybe you make a really cool little AI tool that, there's one I just got the other day that you can take these podcast recordings and you upload them, right? And it spits out short form content, blog articles, SEO stuff, and, summaries. And then boom, that's a huge value add in and of itself that you can take over here and you can sell as a service completely separate. You can then bundle that maybe into a coaching thing that you do or a program thing that you do. And you could say, hey, I'm actually going to give you free access into this thing that we sell over here for $2,000, right? Or something like that. So what type of tool, tool that runs while you sleep, that somebody can use at any time of the day, any device that they're on, that eventually points them to you, that eventually kind of is like, hey, there's this awesome value, because it lends itself to just so many more marketing opportunities and things you can promote and little commercials you can do, just like on your show, right? So there's a lot of a lot of things. It's very like you open Pandora's box when you really start to think about it, you know?
That's true. That's true. I wanted to ask this question, and I'm seeing the power of having an app. What should someone have prior to reaching out to you? How much money should they have? What documentation should they have? An LLC? What if they're doing it as a hobby? What should someone have before setting up an appointment with you and your team?
It's a good question. So I would say, I mean, you got to have some kind of a budget. It's hard for me to say. We don't usually do projects that are under like $2,500. Really, that usually ends up being like the lowest threshold we'll do. But you know, there's no cap on anything. Like you
For
know,
sure.
you have $1 million budget, like we'll gladly take the money.
For sure.
You know, I would definitely have, and that's kind of the thing where you obviously need to have some kind of idea, something that's, even if it's half baked, that's okay. That's what the wonderful world of ChatGPT and Gemini and all these things are for, is you can flesh those things out. You don't necessarily need to have traction or validation or things like that. If you do, that's great. That's awesome. But at least something of like some kind of direction and knowing, okay, here's what I want to build. Even people put together very simple slide decks. I get presented all the time of, hey, here's how I want to do this, or like it's like almost like a pitch deck for funding or something like that. You know? So that's always a possibility. And then I do recommend that you have at least a business, you know, an LLC, something established. You don't have to, even though like in order to publish and actually get those launched, especially on the app stores, Apple and Google are going to ask for that. They're just going to ask for your business documentation.
Sure.
So that is very good to have. Yeah. But other than that,
that makes sense. Because Google and Apple ask for documentation, should I have a stationary business, or can I use an app for a mobile business? So I've played around with the idea of having a mobile business. Like I was recently looking at franchise opportunities, and one of them was like a mobile donut shop where it's the donut shop is hitched to the back of this truck, and I sell donuts and lemonade and coffee out of this donut shop, this mobile donut shop. So do I have to be stationary and have an office and a corporate headquarters and all of those things to be able to use the app effectively? Or can I be mobile and customize the app? So like, say, for example, I want to alert people where I'm going to be, like my schedule or my route. Can I be mobile in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably think in order to establish, and I'm not a lawyer by any means, but I would think, you know, in order to set up your legal entity, you'd have to have some kind of permanent address. But you don't have to be a stationary office building business. That's actually a very good thing. We built something very similar that we're getting ready to launch for an ice cream truck business. So along the same lines. So yeah, they have it established in one place, but they're a mobile based business. Yeah.
So they have both. So they have a stationary location that you can come and get ice cream if you're in the area or your proximity, but they also have a mobile ice cream truck that goes to the community.
I believe so. Yes.
Powerful.
Yes.
Powerful. So this is huge. So is the introduction, where do you see the future of apps? Where do you see, because you have that knowledge, that insight, where do you see the future of apps going, or any, you know, any technology that's coming that's going to impact the way we experience apps? Anything you see coming down the pipeline?
I mean, I think something to pay attention to that I've been paying attention to recently is all the different stuff that's been changing with Apple. So I don't know if your audience is aware, there's a big thing going on in the European Union right now that's really kind of getting to the bottom of whether Apple has the right to take that 15% or 30% off of those commissions and such when you sell your app on the App Store or you know, in-app purchases and things. I think that's a very interesting thing to pay attention to. Because if you think about apps like Netflix or Spotify, they have the apps available on the stores, but you don't actually purchase it through there. They direct you out of it, and you go to their website and you purchase over there, right? So it's and that's not a standard they hold, just because Netflix and Spotify and those types of Pandora, like they bring in a lot of traffic and a lot of money, right?
Right.
So there's a very interesting thing to think about there, but they're also kind of making it so those types of, yep, there you go. So they're actually being a lot more lax with having those progressive type of web apps, those, you know, browser based ones on the Apple App Store as well, because that used to be a big no-no as well. So that's starting to change too. So it's almost like the NIL in college football. It's just becoming a lot more relaxed, and like things are changing. Times they are changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the future of it, and I was just speaking with one of my colleagues the other day, especially inside of this no code space where we're building things with no code and using these platforms. He said something very interesting that I'll share with you guys. He said in 5 years, no code is going to be AI. Like that's just what it's going to be. And I was very interested. I was like, what do you mean by that? He goes, well, you know, I think right now you still have to do some of this manual work around where you have, I want to drop this header in and I want to drop this text in. I do this button and I can format it and do all this other stuff. And he said in 5 years, all that's going to be gone. It's all going to be prompts. It's going to be like a chat GPT for app and software creation. You just type in everything. And there's already some out there that exist. We actually use some of these as well. It's kind of like a lot of like AI. It's kind of like it gets the job done, but it's clearly in its baby stages. And it's like, okay, you know, it's probably better to just do by hand for now. But that'd be very interesting, because that would literally make it so anyone who can just type can do things. I used to say, hey, if you could point and click and you can drag and drop, you can make an app. But now it's in the future, it's just going to be like, well, if you can even do like, you know, the pecking typing, like you could probably do it. You know, it might take a little longer, but you could probably do it. So I think I tend to agree with them. I tend to think that's probably where things are. I don't know about 5 years, but it'll be a very, very interesting world here in 5 to 10 years, I think.
The world is changing, y'all. The world is changing. This is huge. Sir, you have dropped so many nuggets this episode. This is incredible. This is encouraging and insightful for not only myself, selfishly, but I think a lot of businesses could really benefit from an app. And now you have streamlined it, and you're helping and you're giving back and you're allowing people to grow, right? We're all, unless you're in a hobby or a nonprofit, but the goal is to grow and get the word out. I feel like even a nonprofit could benefit from growth. Like I said, just getting out there. Sure. If you have a nonprofit that wants to like make impact and make a difference in the world, I need people to find me. And so, what would your nonprofit benefit from 200, 300 leads of people that want to know more about what you're doing? So huge.
100%.
Powerful. Mr. Hafner, thank you for being here. This is absolutely epic. How can my audience find you? How can we follow you? And how can the train has left the station, but it's not too late to hop on board. So how can we connect?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best, there's two things. You can go to dappernocode.com, which is right there on the screen. And then there's actually a cool little resource on that page. If you scroll down, there's an actual literal app cost calculator that you can walk through. It's about 5 steps. You just click and go through it, and it will spit out an exact dollar amount to say, hey, you're probably looking at about this to have this built. Let me tell you how valuable that is, because I have tried all kinds of different competitors out there, and they always want to email you, and they always want to get you on a sales call. They always want to do this. So we just are like, no, here you go. There you go. Figure it out. So that's super, super valuable as well.
Super powerful. And for our audio listeners, thank you. For our audio listeners that are listening in, it's DAPPERNOCODE.com. So I'm learning that I got to spell these things out, because there's audio listeners that can't see the screen. But I encourage you guys to go watch us, right? We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Audible, radio.com. Anywhere you get podcasts, we are there. And you can connect with Mr. Dan, the man, Grand Poobah. That's what I'm calling him today. Grand Poobah. Sir, thank you for being here. This is epic. I want to say this to you publicly, sir. Continue to grow and don't ever quit. We need you. We need this to help future entrepreneurs. So thank you for what you do. Don't ever quit.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that, man. It's been awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And thank you all for being on the Gentleman Style Podcast show today. I hope this message helps. I hope Mr. Hafner has provided you as much valuable insight as he has for me. This is huge and epic and necessary. I want to thank you and end the show here. We got to let him go. He has many more customers to see, a business to continue to grow, and a family. He's a family man. He has a family to support and continue to love. So thank you for being here. Hope, like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the incredible Dan the Man, Dan Hafner, Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Love you guys. Bye.